Everybody, listen, y'all. We are here tonight, another Thursday. Woo! You just came in ready already. Music playing. But listen, y'all, we're here another Thursday night, y'all. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. We're here another Thursday night, y'all. Sound Gospel Radio. We are live. I love saying it because I want y'all to know this ain't no pre-recorded show. This is a very, very live show. That we stream on our network, which is Sound Gospel Radio, and you can listen to us at soundgospelradio.com. But then on these Thursday nights, even though we have an internet radio station, we decide to give the privilege of letting those that are a part of Sound Gospel Radio to see what we look like. And so what do they look like? So we are also on Facebook, we're on YouTube, we're on Twitter, and you can watch us tonight right now on Sound Gospel Radio's platform. So again, thank you to our listeners. I'm looking at the back door of our radio station, and there are some people that are listening to us right now live on the radio. So I see y'all. I want y'all to know y'all tuned in, ready for the show, and y'all listening in, and I appreciate y'all for listening to us at soundgospelradio.com. So thank you. Shout out to those that are in the great state of New Jersey and Pennsylvania that are listening to us right now. And then we have those that are coming in on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter. They're tuning in and they're coming in to be a part of this conversation. And so I am the founder of Sound Gospel Radio, Nathan Hoskins, and this is my wife, the co-founder and vice president of this great station, Jaleesa Hoskins. And y'all, we are looking forward to another Thursday night. We made it to February.
Yes.
I don't know about y'all. This was a long January for me. Okay. I don't know about anybody else. This was a long January, but we made it to February. And so I'm just grateful that God is keeping us. He's sustaining us. And we're moving forward. So listen, y'all, we have the voice of Thursday night. I call it the face of Thursday night. None other than Miss Ashley. Miss Ashley Corbett. Welcome.
Good evening.
How you doing, girl?
Good.
That's good. And listen, thank you for another Thursday night here at Sound Gospel Radio. Always good to see you. Good conversation. And we're looking forward to having a great time tonight. So definitely getting in the mix. All right, we have my man, Nate Matthews is here. Hey, sir.
Good evening, everybody.
Hey, man. How's it going tonight?
It's going well.
That's what's up. Man, that's what's up, man.
Yes, sir.
Grateful and thankful to having you. And y'all, listen, I call this back by popular demand. We had this great lady here, y'all, last week, and I know so many of y'all enjoyed her. And I said, listen. I said, you're more than welcome to come any Thursday night to be a part, just to share her great wisdom. And y'all, I'm excited because she came tonight. None other than who y'all, Mrs. Marcia Johnson.
Hi. Hello.
Oh, listen, just so happy to have you here tonight. I tell you, there's just such a fragrance, as they call it, the fragrance of the house, right? Such a fragrance that the Lord just allows you to just a blow of a fresh wind tonight. And we're so happy to have you here again with Sound Gospel Radio. We thank you so much for being a part of it. And yes, I see my cousin. He is already ready to go. And he says, peace and blessings, cousins.
Hey.
Good to see you, Carl. And Carl, he gives us great input, and he sits on our executive board for Sound Gospel Radio. So Carl, we're always appreciative to you, your encouragement, and your support. All right, y'all, listen, we're about to get into a great conversation, talking tonight. And we looked at our title today. The title today is Where Do We Stand? The title today is Where Do We Stand? Where do we stand? Where's my title at? There we go. Boom. The title tonight, y'all, for those that are watching, those that are listening, where do we stand? We're going to talk about some relationships, y'all, some family, friends, probably some work, different places of people that we have to deal with daily, that we have dealt with already. And the question is, where do we stand? I think that's a good question for us to focus on, to talk about today. And that's what we want to start off with. And so we want to talk about, we want to just kind of just piggyback on a conversation we had a while back. I know we kind of did this, but we're going to do it a little bit different. We're going to talk about relationships again. And I know the last time in relationships, we talked about being heard versus being misunderstood or being understood. Yeah, I think it was being heard versus being understood.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. And so we did hit that, but we're going to get a little deeper when it comes to relationships today. And somebody said, well, what is a relationship? A relationship is any connection between two people, which can be either a positive or a negative situation. You can have a relationship with a wide range of people. It's just so many different, including family and friends. The phrase being in a relationship is often linked between a romantic relationship, and it can refer to various associations one person has with another. Even when they talk about being in a relationship, it doesn't always mean that there is physical intimacy, or emotional attachment and commitment is involved. And so people engage in many different types of relationships that have unique characteristics. So somebody said, well, there's different types of relationships. And if I miss some, y'all let me know. But we have our family relationships, which is our parents, our siblings, our cousins, our uncles, our grandparents, etc. We got some friendships, the people that we choose and the ones that choose us back. Oh God, look, can I pause there real quick?
Yes.
The ones that we choose and the one that chooses back. You got some people that say, that's my friend. That ain't my friend.
Right.
I ain't friends with you. That's my best friend. I ain't friends with you. And there's some people that say, the people that create those imaginary relationships. Beyonce is my friend. Beyonce don't even know who you are. Hey girl, what? Who?
Right.
What? They don't know you. So we create these. So let's be clear, y'all. A friendship is one that you choose and they choose you back. Okay.
Right.
That just tickled me, y'all. Because y'all know I ain't lying. Y'all know people didn't create these friendships in the head. I have people that say to me, I know Nathan. I was like, and one person told me, Nathan, they knew all about you. I didn't know who this person was from a can of paint. And I said, who? And I saw their picture. I was like, I don't know who. And they're telling people, yeah, that sound like Nathan. Yep, that sounds just like something he would say. I don't know these people. So anyway, they swear we were friends, but I'll keep it moving. We also talk about there's intimate relationships. Of course, we'll hit that soon. But it was a husband, a wife, deep friendships. A husband and wife, I say intimate. We have work relationships, and then we have situational relationships, which I call situationships.
Everybody do.
We're gonna tell the truth.
It's complicated.
Yeah, we're gonna tell the truth where you're not
very complicated.
You're not courting, or you're not boyfriend or girlfriend. You're not engaged, but y'all are close, but not that close, and there's no commitment. But it's a situation, and so those type of situationships, as they call it, and it's like, oh my goodness. So that's what we're gonna talk about tonight. And shout out to my girl Constance Lane. She said, hey fam, I really try to ordain some people tonight. I can hear her like people saying it, y'all. If y'all been watching or listening to our conversation, Constance will come on here and make somebody a bishop, apostle, an evangelist, a church mother, and a heartbeat. Connie, I ain't messing with you today. We're looking forward. We'll see what's going to happen tonight. But y'all, that's what we're going to talk about. So these different type of relationships, they can vary in greatly terms of closeness. And there are also subtypes of relationships within each of these basic types. So now we want to talk about having healthy relationships. I thank God for Miss Marcia last week, and we're definitely we're going to revamp that conversation again with her. Looking forward to bringing that out when we talk about taking care of me, taking care of us and our mental health, and our setting the right boundaries and communicating the right things. And I'll say that, y'all, even with relationships, we can have healthy relationships with these different type of categories that I mentioned. And I want to say this, regardless of how you define your relationship, there are important steps you can take to ensure that your connection is healthy. Listen, if y'all get tired of us for the next couple of weeks or so, then go somewhere, because we're going to be talking about healthy relationships. I'm just saying it's the truth, because we're going to talk about healthy relationships. We want you to be healthy. We want you to be healed. We want you to be full and whole. This is what we do here at Sound Gospel Radio. We're building hope. We're transforming lives 24/7. God, he said in his word, I would that you prosper. He didn't say I would that you fail. He said I would that you prosper and be in health. Some translations say and be in good health, even as your soul prospers. And so I believe in that. And I want that. And I want to pursue that. And if it has to be with the relationships that I choose and the boundaries that I choose and the communication that I need to increase, I want it and I want it all. All right. So let's talk about some different some healthy relationships, and then we're going to dive in a little bit deeper. When it comes down to relationships, there's a lot of things we can do, y'all. I'm just surfacing and just opening up. Showing appreciation and gratitude is healthy. Communicating openly and honestly, being affectionate and showing that you care, having a mutual respect, actively listening, showing interest in each other, being supportive and encouraging, feeling empathy for each other, spending time together, having healthy boundaries, and being trustworthy. So those are just some tips and some areas of healthy relationship. So I'm going to go back and we're going to talk about this because the question is now, so where do we stand? Where do we stand as we grow, as we are developing as people, as humans? Where do we stand in the relationships that we have acquired, even down through the years, whether it's family, friends, or or our marriage or our spouses? So we're gonna move forward. But before I do, I already opened up the floor, and I'd like to hear from our guests and our panel so far. So what do y'all think about so far? Just the difference of relationships that are out there. What is your ideas and your thoughts on what we just shared so far?
Well, for me, I think it's the where do we stand? Sometimes it's really makes you take made you take introspect on the different relationships in my life, and it's like, okay, where do I stand? And if it's something that I'm okay with it being where it stands, and if I'm not, then what steps am I willing to take to move forward to making the relationship how I would like it to be, or vice versa. Especially with family relationships, for me, the friends and other ones, they can kind of be a little easier to kind of just be blasé about. The family relationships, they're difficult. And sometimes in my mind, I would think they shouldn't be because we're family, but sometimes the family relationships can be very difficult and the most difficult ones. But as far as like the healthy relationships and how to maintain, I think all of those tips are like important to make sure you're communicating openly and honestly, and especially as we grow and evolve. Because if you grew up, especially in the same house with people, if we're talking about just immediate family, we all grow and change and we evolve. And especially if you have ones that may have lived separately for a while and then you're coming back together, it takes an adjustment process. But that's why communication is so important, so that we're all learning the grown you or wherever you are at that moment in time, so we are not constantly responding to each other how we last remembered, which sometimes can cause tensions. And it's sometimes it takes a while to adjust that, oh, this person is not the same way. They don't do that same thing that they did, like I remember the last time, or they don't respond the same way, or they do still respond the same way. But
Right.
it's learning how to adjust with it as you're growing.
That's the truth. It's the truth. And before we move forward, I want to give a shout out to some of the comments we got rolling in. I see Don J. Davis. Hey, Dave. Hey, Elder Davis. How you doing, man? He said, grabbing my popcorn. This is going to be a good segment. Oh, man, listen. And I see April Cheney. Hey, girl. She said, family. And we say family back. Say grace and peace be unto you. Good to see you tonight. And it's the truth. So, you know what? Let's hone in on family and friendships. Let's hone in on that because I mentioned, excuse me, come out here, you spirit. I mentioned different types of relationships. I talked about the family relationships. I talked about family friendships, acquaintances, romantic, intimate, work, and situational. So let's highlight for the moment, Lord, because I just had a flash of work relationships. But let's see if we get there. Oh, Jesus, I got some stories I can tell you. Anyway, let's highlight on family and family and friends for right now. Let's highlight this family and friends. And Jaleesa already got the ball moving of you can grow up with people in your family, whether they're your siblings, whether they're your cousins, aunts, uncles, sometimes parents. Where as time go by, y'all, things change, we evolve, we grow up, things move on to a different place. And it's important that we learn at a certain part in life, hey, yo, where do we stand? where's our relationship now? Like, yo, what's up? What's the, what's the flow with this? Like, where are we going? Where are we going in this relationship? And learning how to set the appropriate positions so that either that we can grow and I can move on, so I can be healthy, you can be healthy. Because sometimes, depending on the family member, I may have to love you from a distance. Sometimes it's important that we have that conversation, that we get closer. It's important to know, where do we stand? And I just wanted to let you know, times change, things change. I just had a thought that came in my head. My mother and I, my mother's an evangelist in the church, and I'm a minister as well. So when we were both at the same church, my mom and I, we worked together in ministry, which was okay. That was fine. That's not the issue. We were co-laborers in ministry. That's not the problem. That wasn't the issue. But when it came down to certain stuff, I got licensed at 19 years old to preach the gospel of Jesus Christ. At 19, my mother was in the world doing her thing and just had a baby. And so, her perspective was a little bit different than mine at 19. So there was some times where, when I finally got to a certain age and like in my 20s, I said, Mom, what was you doing at 19 years old? She said, well, I was out doing my thing in the world. I said, well, I was in the church. And all I knew was the Lord, and I was already saved and Holy Ghost filled. And I said it like that because it was to get her to understand that my knowledge of church and ministry had kind of had I was in the little church just a little bit longer than her, even though I'm older than you. Yes, you're older than me, but Mom, I was born and raised in this. This is all I knew my whole life. You actually had other experiences that I did not have, that I may never have. And so when I had that conversation with her, she was like, oh, and it allowed her to look at where I was and my position, my perspectives in a different way. It was good that we had that conversation so that we knew then at that moment in life, where do we stand in this? Where do we stand in this? So when I'm saying certain stuff about church, I'm not just saying it because I heard it. This is all I've known. This is all I've ever lived. And so my perspective is going to be this because this is all I've ever known, where she's had different perspectives. She grew up in the ministry and grew up in church, but of course she diverted and came back later. I never had that story. So, and I don't think she didn't realize that until we did what? Y'all, we had the conversation. And so it is important that we have those conversations, even with family. And that's just one perspective I wanted to share. There's other perspectives out there, like Jaleesa was saying, when it comes down to family members, and I'll just share it again. It used to bother me when I run into certain family members. Oh, Nathan, you always did it. I don't always do that. And I've heard family members bring up stuff that I didn't do. Like 15 years have passed. Nathan, I know Nathan. Because Nathan, I'm like, what are you talking about? And it got so annoying because you expect me to be the same Nathan. Last time we talked, I was 22. I ain't seen you, and now I'm older now. And I was like, wait, what's up? What's up? Don't you laugh, Julius, because no one said the age and I had to let it go. But I'm like, what's up with that? Well, what's up with that? So, there's conversations that need to be had, y'all. Like, where do we stand?
Because it even saves those conversations. I mean, sometimes certain things you can't avoid. Certain things are just personality things, but it even saves you from being misrepresented, because I am so grossly misrepresented sometimes that it is so frustrating and disheartening. I've had people even come to me, and you could tell like they must have had conversations about me with someone else about something some other time, and then they'll come and say, yeah, well, they said, well, that's just how she is. I can't stand for someone to say that's just how she is. I'm like, what's just how I am? But then I remember saying to them, and I've told other people that, I'm like, if that was their response, and that should let you know right there, they don't know me well enough for you to be getting any information from them. If they can't say this, that all they have is that's just how she is, they don't know me then. Exactly. So why are you getting information from them? That's why, have the conversations, people. Sometimes they're the deep ones. You're going to be crying, sniffing, snotting it out. Sometimes it's just little things of just setting boundaries of, this is who I am now, or this is how I feel, or this is what I think on these things now, and it have the conversations.
Exactly. Please. So April hit it in real quick, and I'm actually going to get back to you. April hit it in real quick. She said, well, the people do that because that's what they remember. And April, I'm so glad you typed the next thing, because I was ready to jump on the train, but she did hit it and say, often people do not want to talk and see who you are now. They base their relationship on what was and what they remember. Exactly. That's what I was about to get to. Is I'm trying to help somebody tonight that's listening and that's watching us, is that we have to grow to the fact and to the place of, even when I approach a family member I haven't seen in years, I have to catch myself, and I did, where I go back and I've done it. And so, because I didn't like it done to me. And so now when I saw certain cousins or certain siblings or certain people that I haven't talked to in a while, and I automatically respond a certain way, that may be offensive to them now. That may not be a point. I don't want to be called, certain cousins don't want to be called Pookie no more. I know a cousin, we used to call them Riri. Don't call me Riri no more. I don't want to be called Riri. They didn't like that. That was their name when they was a childhood. Then I had some cousins that wanted to be called their childhood name, because that's the thing. I was careful. So one cousin didn't want to be called their childhood name. I saw another one, and I said, "Hey, so and so," they was like, "You can call me my childhood name," but that's the communication part about it. So it's a being careful in the future of how we approach that, because some people don't want to be called stink a butt at 55 years old. Okay, can I tell the truth? I'm just saying, we got these crazy names, especially in certain cultures. We got these crazy last names. I mean, crazy nicknames that where y'all get some of these names from? Some people don't want to be called that. And sometimes, how about you being in a place, you're a doctor or you're a pastor or a minister, and you in a big crowd, stink a butt. It's like, it's just so disrespectful. But they don't want that. And so it's creating that proper boundary. Ashley, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Ashley.
No, I just wanted to say, it is very true to have it's hard to have conversations with family. Like my brothers and I, we've tried multiple times to sit down and have conversations about, how we felt growing up and stuff like that. And I've learned in having those conversations, people take what you say personally. And it's just sometimes it's just this is how I feel, whether if you want to take it personally, that's on you. But you, I used to say all the time, you can't tell me how I felt growing up. This is how I felt. This is how you made me feel, whether that's what you meant or not. But that's how I felt at that particular moment, And we get to the point where it's just like I say, where's the resolve in all of this? We got to move forward. How do we fix this? How do we move forward from the back and forth, the finger pointing of what you did or who did what first and stuff like that? And it seems like we always stay stuck in that one place. And I'm just like, well, this is how I want to be handled moving forward.
Right.
We're either going to do it this way. You tell me how you feel. I respect how you feel. You respect how I feel. And let's just keep it pushing. But it seems that everybody takes everything so personally. And everybody always, once again, has a rebuttal about how you feel instead of just listening and understanding where I'm coming from. And let's just say, all right, you know what? Cool. I didn't mean it that way. X, Y, and Z. Let's move forward. But nobody ever wants to do that.
Well, let's talk about that communication, because I think that in a conversation like that, there should be boundaries set before the conversation begins. So I want to hit communication real quick, because communication is one of the biggest things to having a healthy relationship. Of course, we still may dive into the mutual respect and the showing interest in each other and being supportive, but communication, y'all, is often the single most important thing in a relationship. And so it's very important to have proper communication. Now, Ashley, I will say this and see if it'd be helpful. If there ever comes a time that you have to have a conversation with family members, and this is something I've adapted because of the job I used to work in. I used to work in mental health, so this really helped, is set that boundary before the conversation starts. Okay, y'all, listen, we're about to have a conversation. I need everyone that's in this conversation tonight to hear me out, or let's hear each other out. And, just set those boundaries. And I'm not saying that you haven't done that. I'm just giving suggestions. And these are also for those that are listening, saying, listen, let's hear each other out. Let's not cut each other off. And I'm about to use something called I statements. I think I talked about this before in one of our previous conversations. Is the I statement is, I'm going to share things that I feel and I have felt that may not be true, but that's how it made me feel. So it has helped me in my relationship with me and my wife. When we first got married, I misinterpreted some things. She misinterpreted some things. We sat down and had a conversation, and we started having I statements. I feel like this when you do that. And she was like, I didn't mean it that way. And vice versa. I didn't mean it like that, but that's how it made me feel. And so we set that boundary first. So that'll be helpful in the future if you haven't already with your family. And for those that are listening, those that are watching us, when you are ready to have that conversation and they're ready as well, set those boundaries before the conversation starts so that they're already open. So if they go against you, say, you agreed to let me express how I feel. Because again, because they're going to feel attacked. They're going to feel some type of way.
Yeah, it's going to be personal.
Right. They're going to take it personal, but it's allowing you to get off your chest how you felt. And they need to understand, hey, you said this. I felt this way about it. You may not have meant it that way, but that's how I took it. So it does help. And it's helped me not just with my wife, but it's helped me with different relationships with my siblings, my sister and I, my brother and I. Sometimes we'll all get on the phone and we'll talk. And I'm like, yo, I felt this way when you said this. I didn't like how this made me feel. And I'm like, man, I didn't mean it that way. Or vice versa. My sister will be like, I didn't mean it like that. Until we had the conversation and we set that ground rule. So that is important to move on with, y'all.
I do think everyone being ready is important. Sometimes it doesn't always necessarily go that way. But I think too, sometimes in conversations when we're expressing how we're feeling, the intention should be to really express, not to try and be right or to vindicate. Because sometimes that's when we all start bumping heads because everybody, well, I felt this. And that's when we start refuting and rebutting and everything because we're trying to be right. When that the goal at the end of this is not to be right. It's to heal or to resolve or come to something at the end of this that's not the same way we came in here.
Ain't that the truth?
Exactly.
Oh,
and that's exactly how it ends, Jaleesa, though. It always ends to, it never gets no result because everybody wants to say about I did this, well, I did that. And it's just like you said, at this point, there's no moving forward until everybody wants to be at that place where it's just like, okay, let's sit down and let's be adults about it. Let's just have this conversation with let's come in with a positive attitude. And it never starts off like that.
And really quickly, just to add to the communication piece, I think it's very important that you unearth, especially with family members over the years, their expectations of you. And then once those expectations are unearthed, you manage them. Because, a little sister might see a big brother as her protector growing up, but if the little sister goes off and has a family and then has a husband, she might still view her big brother as a protector. And if something goes awry in their relationship, she wants the big brother to come and help when she's a grown adult. And that may not be the expectation that the big brother might have at that particular point in their lives. So just unearthing and then managing expectations, what people expect of you or what you expect of others.
It's true. That's true in that, because when those big changes happen, it is a hard adjustment. And sometimes the sad part for my experience is, if I'm saying this correct, Jaleesa, I guess the deflecting of it. Because, for instance, when I got married, I moved to a different area. And so some of the relationships I had with certain family members shifted. It got different. It wasn't the same. And they got new. They thought I got, and I'm like, I moved. I'm like, I'm still the same person.
Brand new.
Yeah. I'm like, y'all can come down and visit, there's just, and then now it's this first you were all hurt I was leaving. Now I left and hey, come and visit. Just, I'm just like, what? I was like, what was that? I didn't get it. I didn't understand. It didn't make any sense to me. The difference. I was like, why are you all hurt and feeling some type of way? And then I don't know. I was just some stuff you got to lay before the Lord in prayer, but it didn't make any sense. And I'm like, my wife has nothing against y'all. She didn't pull me away. Some people say, she pulled you away from us.
I know. I got the blame for everything.
Yeah. I'm like, no, she didn't do that. That was a decision that I made. She didn't say you need to come on up yonder. No, I made the decision to make a transition in life, and people took it personal. I didn't understand until. Okay, all right. I don't know if we're going this way for a reason, until I realized they were more upset that they couldn't have their access to me the way they wanted. And so because that changed, then everything else has changed. Oh, I can't call Nathan when I want to. He's not accessible when I need him. So then I look at the fact of, did you really care about me? or did you care about what I offered to the table? Did you care about me, or you only cared about the resource that I was? So, what
Mhm.
mattered? That was
Mhm.
like just a interesting thing. What mattered? And so, Mrs. Marcia, did you want to hit on that?
What you were saying, Nathan, I was going to say, because we started with the question is, where do we stand, or where do I stand?
Yes.
The relationship itself sometimes determines that meaning, whether it's family, friends, romantic. And if we're asking that question, it already suggests the degree of relationship is more than something superficial. If
Mhm.
we're asking that question, that means that relationship means something more to you than just passing fancy.
Mhm.
Sometimes people's response to your change in situation, like when you got married, answers that question. You just said it, Nathan. We
Mhm.
project a lot what we're feeling.
Hmm.
That's why you get a lot of "you made me feel like."
Huh.
And I'm telling you, no one has the ability to make you feel a way that you don't already feel.
Yeah.
That's already in you. They may trigger it, and you get the response. We see the symptoms by how they react.
Mhm.
But when they say, or they acted funny because you were moving and you said, well, you can still come and visit and stuff, and then you see the distance, that answers the question. You know where you stood. You meant more to them than you probably thought. And I'm
Wow.
not one for over exaggerating my place in people's lives. I've had
Hmm.
to learn that, because you'll get your feelings hurt. But sometimes it'll show you exactly how much, and in a good way, you meant to someone by their response when the relationship or a position or there's a change in the relationship. When you expect somebody to be happy for you in situations like that and celebrate you, it seems like they're jealous, envious, or mad. That tells you where you stood. We don't always see that immediately. We just, because now we're in our feelings. And when you're having a conversation with someone and you say how I felt, no one can tell you how you feel
Yeah.
unless they're feeling with
Absolutely.
your emotions,
Mhm.
even though it may not have been their intent, especially if it was hurtful to you. And sometimes that's our defense mechanism, like, gosh, I love her, or I love him. I didn't want to hurt them. And now they're telling me that, and it hurts them. So rather than acknowledge it, sometimes we'll double down, like we'll add more to it before we take away from it. Then that's when you get to, well, I this, or you made me feel like that, the back and forth. And a lot of times we'll ask people, well, how did I make you feel that way? Only because
Hmm.
we want to explain so
Right.
they will understand hurting you was not the intent. That's a good thing, trying to explain to give understanding. But when it goes back and forth, because I think Ashley was saying it ends up really there's never any resolve. You know why? Because some people have resolved themselves. They're committed to misunderstanding. And
Mhm.
that's when you have to tell yourself that I'm not willing anymore to try to give understanding to something that a person is committed to
Yeah.
misunderstanding.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Yes. So
Yes.
true.
Oh
Yes.
my goodness, that is so true.
God has
Oh, you hit it
spoken.
on the nail. Like, oh my God, I love that. I love that because I, I just had to say this too to somebody the other day. For instance, like, people misinterpret us. Like, say, for instance, my brothers tell me all the time, "You always got an attitude," and I'm just like, that sounds absurd. I don't just wake up in the morning and say I want to have an attitude and just be mad at somebody for no reason. There's a reason why I may have an attitude.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody made me feel a way, and then when I communicated with you that you made me feel a way, you're going to make it seem like I'm the bad guy for having an attitude when you made me feel this way. And it's just like, how do people just say that somebody's just walking around and be mean and nasty and have an attitude? I'm like, that just sounds crazy to me. Like, it's
Hmm.
not, especially when you know who I am and how I am as a person. Like, for me, words of affirmation is very big for me. I like to be, somebody to tell me, reassure myself on top of how I feel. Like, you know what, you're doing a great job. Stuff like that. I like to hear those kind of things. But when I don't hear it and all I hear is, everything that I don't do, and everything else is just like I don't feel appreciated. So, and then when I'm walking around with an attitude, because it's just like you know I like words of affirmation, but yet you don't give it to me. So now it's just like, am I supposed to still walk around and go, oh, hey, how you doing? How's your day? Give you words of affirmation while I'm not
Right.
even getting that in return. It's kind of hard for me to walk around and fake that I'm happy and I'm not, and then make it seem like I'm the bad guy.
Mm.
Sometimes when people say that, because it's easier for them, Ashley, because then now they put all the responsibility on you in the relationship with them to do. So you have to manage your emotions and theirs when they do that. It's not easy to do. And even having an attitude or being angry or hurt is all natural. And I think that's areas that we should feel those too. But put a time limit on them. Some of those places that don't live there in them, but they are choices. Because you can choose, because you know why you're walking around with an attitude to them, and you may really have one with them because they've conditioned you to have that expectation. Now you already know what you're going to get from them. So
Yeah.
you're prepared. That's your response to them. Because I can walk in the room and your whole attitude can change and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
And people won't understand
true.
that. And it's easier to say, oh, she just has an attitude than to say, well, maybe it's me too. Maybe it's something about me with her. It's easier for us to project and to place the blame on someone else than to take our responsibility for a relationship, because we're talking about relationships, and healthy relationships are one where everyone's needs are being met,
Wow.
not just one-sided.
Wow.
Right.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna say it again. She said healthy relationships are when everyone's needs are met, not just one-sided. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's good.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Can
Nate.
I add real quick,
Mhm.
just something simple and easy, but facial expressions and body language is not communication. It's a form of communication, but spoken words are more effective. So if someone does, their face looks distorted or they look affected by something, conversation is the great equalizer for that. If you just want to perceive them to have an attitude and then take that perception with you and keep moving, that will affect the next interaction.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Man.
I agree. The being delivered from facial expressions helps, because I've done it and people have done it to me. It's like you assume because a person looks a certain way, oh, they have an attitude or this. I'm like, well, did they do something to me for them to have an attitude with me? Then why am I afraid to talk to them, or vice versa? It's like, it is, because I used to do that, like facial expressions, or if someone looked that I would kind of not want to talk or not want to, and they cannot be thinking anything. There could be nothing wrong with them. That's just, or there is something wrong, but it ain't me. So why are you avoiding? I'm like, yeah.
Or it's where you're at, because I dealt with that most of my life. Again, being a minister at 19, people watched everything you did. So they watched all your faces. So whether I was on the organ or sitting on the pulpit, oh, Nate, we can tell who you don't like, who you do like. Y'all don't know that. So then I had to create a face that you didn't know if it was yay or nay, because people were watching your faces. So it really makes it worse when you're in leadership or you're connected to leadership, that people watch your faces and then they automatically judge a whole personality out of who you are off of a face. Because there's so many people that I've met that were in leadership that I just thought they were serious and didn't know how to have fun or nothing until I got to talk to them and get to know them, which makes a big difference, not just judging automatically. And I was like, yo, they really are cool. And I've had it said to me, people already had a perspective or a persona of who I was.
Idea.
Right. I can see. And then when they got to know me, like, they realized I'm really a clown. Like, I really love to laugh more than y'all think. But again, at that moment of ministry, it's not time to laugh or play around. It's time to have a good, it's time to be focused in ministry or whatever I got to do. But I do love to laugh. But looking at a facial expression, you don't know. I heard somebody say all the time, they said, I thought you was a cornball. And I was like, what? They said, until I got to get to know you. And I was like, because they said when I came to their church, again, I was in my mode of serving and doing ministry. Right. So I'm not going to be all, the whole time. No. So I just wanted to share that, because it's just so true. Go ahead, Nate.
Real quick, that can kind of touch on the ones that say, oh, Beyonce, that's my, that's my friend, or that's my folk, or people. That's an imaginary relationship.
Yes.
You don't have
Yes.
a real relationship, authentic relationship with that person. So you imagine them to be something they're not.
Man, it's the
And then you
truth.
respond in kind. So
Respond in
it's
kind.
I don't care
Oh
what
my
nobody
gosh.
say. Michael
because-
Jackson was my husband, so
Tank is too.
he said, beat it.
Y'all hear this foolishness for so those that are listening and watching. One person said Michael Jackson was their husband. The other one talking about some Tank is. So I cast down every imagination that's trying to come up. on this.
Right. Imagination.
Anyway, we're not mind. Back to what you.
I know where we stand.
Okay.
They go walk
We are
right
not
by you,
mind
don't know
readers
who you are.
around here.
You know, and I use that example.
Mine
when
is
somebody-
dead, so I don't have to
It's
worry about him
amazing
ignoring
though,
me.
y'all could read a bio, watch a little documentary, and get a T-shirt and think you know them from they was born on just because you know they
And a
date of birth.
picture. And a picture.
August 29th, 1958.
And have the nerve, Nate. So I'm singing on that, Nate. I'm so glad you on stage, Miss Marcia. I ain't gonna go there because if I say
Yeah, our uncle's not hanging up back there. She
there's two
moved him.
names I can say that I might lose Miss Marcia. Hey Nate, it's amazing how they can watch a documentary, buy a T-shirt, and don't let them get a CD signed. Oh, they just think they know the person. Isn't this amazing?
That was
Oh,
the
have
first
mercy.
date.
It's
That was
deeper
the
than
first
that.
date.
That was the first date. Y'all heard me say.
That was the first date.
I'm gonna keep moving. I'm gonna keep moving, y'all, because I feel a change in here on us.
Dare I say children?
Yeah. Hey, thank you,
love y'all.
First Lady. Thank you. Order in the
I love
court.
it though. But no, we can create that. And like I said, we can automatically judge and prejudge that from these facial expressions. And like I said, it's important to just get to know the person, to communicate. And okay, let's talk about this real quick, because I know we have so much on, and we're all going to continue this conversation as we move forward. But so now, what do we do if we do have the communication or the conversation with, I'm going to use it in different perspectives, with that family member, and they're not ready, not ready, that they don't want to move on. They just want to or, and I'm going to bring up a second one, if y'all can answer both of these. What do you do with the communication of the person that you're trying to build a relationship with and they reject you? Because see, many times a lot of people are dealing with a spirit of rejection, and they're now afraid to accept or to, build a relationship with someone. So say if I walked up to Ashley, I didn't know you, but I want to build a relationship, and then I realized that stern face was really who she is. How do I move on from that? Because see, some people they'll do that and never want to open up again. I'm never going to talk to nobody ever again. I'm never going to deal with. So how do we do that? Deal with that rejection and still create future relationships? Anybody want to answer that?
Well,
Great
like,
question.
I don't know. Like I said, I'm not a mind reader, so I'm going to come to you. And if I see whatever emotion you have, I'm going to come to you and I'm going to ask you. And hopefully in that moment, me coming to you, asking you, what's up? How do you feel about me, or whatever the case is? I would hope that you take that moment to express how you feel. But if you don't take that moment to express how you feel, it's just like, I have no choice but to move forward, because you had the opportunity to say everything you had to say about me, whether I liked it or not, whether it hurt my feelings or whatever. If you don't take that opportunity and I move forward, and then you try to come later on down the line and want to come and communicate with me, at that point, it's just like, I have to figure out on my own terms if that's something I want to open back up to, but people think that they could just come back on there whenever they feel like it. And it's just like, that's a boundary that has to be set, and at that point, it's just like, you know what? I gave you the opportunity. You didn't want to talk, you just shut me down. Now I'm somewhere in Afghanistan or something like that, minding my own little business, moved on, doing happy and great. And here you want to come follow me over here and say, oh yeah, well, this is how I felt. And it's just like, whoa, pause. Now we're not doing it when you want to do it. I need time and space to think about if this is what I want, So I think that for me would be the biggest thing, is this: either we talk now or we talk later on a point where we can just come on common grounds and do it together. Otherwise, then I'd rather just love you from a distance and keep it pushing and wish you the best.
Well, I want to share this as we continue to move forward on the importance of acknowledging your feelings. And y'all, I don't care today because it's Thursday. I got a back chat of Ashley mentioning Afghanistan. The reason why I laugh, person that typed that is, well, Ashley I almost said literally, because y'all know Ashley be all over the world.
Mhm.
Every time Pastor Johnson comes on, he sees Ashley. Where are you at now? What part of the world are you at? 'Cause so when she said Afghanistan, I'm like, yeah, that could be where she could be.
Mhm.
I wouldn't take it past her. Oh my goodness.
Where in the
So
world?
the importance to y'all of moving forward is acknowledging our feelings, working on accepting how you feel. And because the question is, how do we cope with this? Like, how do we cope with these different type of relationships that we're trying to either mend or move on with? And it's important that we acknowledge our feelings, that we acknowledge that you cannot, even with our family and friends. I'll just say with family, we cannot choose our family, so we can't choose them. So you can't blame yourself or not, or for not feeling close to people that may not want to be close back with you. So instead, we can work on practicing our self-acceptance and then determine what we can do to either manage these feelings or improve the relationships that are making us happy. We can improve on those relationships. And of course, finding different ways to accept our feelings in a non-judgmental way can be helpful. Accepting your emotions mean allowing yourself to feel things without trying to stifle or hide the emotion, even when it's difficult or painful. So by accepting emotions, you're able to find healthier ways of coping with them, and lessen the anxiety, stress, fear, and sadness that often accompanies such feelings. So there's things that we can do to to hope or to cope with these feelings that come up. We have a comment here from my cousin Carl. He said, just because you're having a bad day doesn't give you a pass that day to be nasty to people. And that's the truth. That's the truth. It
So
just
true.
Mhm.
I agree. Your mood should not always dictate your manners.
yes.
Right.
Absolutely.
Well,
Right.
Oh, I like that. I'm telling y'all, Mom, listen, I need to start creating a book of
gems.
thank you, sir. Because
Mhm.
she says stuff, and I'm like, man, I should have wrote that down. Your Mom, Miss Marcia, can you say it one more time?
Your mood should not dictate your manners.
Your
Mhm.
mood should not dictate your manners. Did y'all hear that song on
Absolutely.
radio?
Mhm.
Your mood should
That's
not
the gem.
dictate your manners. I like that. It's the
Yeah,
truth. It is
it
so
is.
true. Because even at my old job, people thought I never had a bad day. And I told them, I said, y'all see that door right there? I said, everything that happened to me before I got here, I leave it on the other side of that door.
It's
And
crucial.
so, because when I walk into that door, I gotta get the job done. Even with ministry, there's ministry days where do I feel like talking? Do I feel like saying good evening or shalom or praise the Lord? No, but guess what? When I walk through that door, y'all didn't do anything. The saints that I saw that day, they didn't annoy me that day. So why want to take that into the sanctuary, into a place of worship where they say praise the Lord? And I'm like,
Mhm.
so I got to shake that thing off. And sometimes it's the preparation in the car, whether it's the
Mhm.
music I listen to before we get there, and shaking it off, praying in my silent time before we get there. It's important because it matters, y'all. This
It
all matters.
does.
These relationships that we have. Again, we started off talking about family relationships, and we moved on talking about as we got specific with sibling. Guess what, y'all? And I know we got about 10 minutes left. Unfortunately, we're still going to talk about in the future about husband and wife and boyfriend and girlfriend. So stay tuned, excuse me, to some future conversations. But y'all, there are some toxic relationships out there.
Mhm.
Yes.
Mhm.
Ah, my God, and I'm a segue here on purpose so that y'all want to tune in next week. Wait, listen, there's some toxic relationships. Oh my goodness, it's like we have healthy relationships where there's toxic relationships. And when somebody say, "Well, what is a toxic relationship?" Well, a toxic relationship is any type of interpersonal relationship where your emotional, physical, or psychological well-being is undermined or threatened in some
Mhm.
way. Such relationships often leave you feeling ashamed. They can leave you feeling humiliated. They can leave you feeling misunderstood or unsupported. Any type of relationship can be toxic, y'all, whether it's between friendships, family relationships, romantic relationships, even workplace relationships. That was some of the most toxic relationships I've ever seen. Toxic relationships are characterized by what, y'all? I'm gonna give y'all a list: lack of support, blaming, competitiveness, controlling behaviors, disrespect, dishonesty, hostility, jealousy. Okay.
Wow.
Passive aggressive behaviors. I can't stand those. Poor communication and stress. That's just the beginning, y'all. I
And
want to talk about that.
gaslighting.
Oh, and gaslighting, y'all.
Mhm.
Toxic relationship. Go ahead, Nate.
Now, I was going to kind of add to that. Former relationships when you were a different person that may reintroduce themselves back into your life and think you're still that same person. And they add a level of toxicity because they try to get you to do the things you used to do when you're not that person anymore.
Wow.
And that I'm reminded of 1 Corinthians 15:33, where bad company corrupts good morals. So once you've removed yourself, I'll use a personal example really quickly. Rededicated my life to God back in 2012. And once I did that, the friends that I hung out with, I wasn't interested in doing those things any longer. However, they persisted to try to get me to continue to do it because that's all they knew. They didn't meet the version of me who God purposed me to be. So if I allowed them to and actually caved in, then that's toxic because I'm reverting, I'm regressing. So that's another, to me, that's, a toxic relationship.
Yes, exactly. It's the truth. And sometimes all people in a relationship, many times people play different roles in creating, and Nate, you already hit some of it in creating this toxicity. For example, you may be contributing to toxicity if you are, and I say you, just so anybody that's listening, are consistently unkind, critical, insecure, and negative, like all the time. And sometimes we don't realize how that somebody that's always negative, and I go to you for advice, and every time I come to you, you got something negative to say, that you're a toxic person, because it's just after a while, I don't want to come to you no more. Every time, it's a shame. Go ahead.
I think before you can even get to a we, you got to deal with yourself first too. Sometimes we have to deal with our own selves, insecurities and stuff like that. And I always say, when we say about toxic things, but even when it comes to toxicity, it's what we allow. We don't have to allow it. We can stop it from the door. I don't have to allow somebody to disrespect me. But if I allow them to disrespect me, that means I'm letting them do that. We don't have to do anything that we don't want to do. That's physically, if we don't want nobody to touch us physically, we won't allow them to do that to us. If we want to protect how we feel, we won't allow it. But it's what we allow. It's what we get comfortable in a lot of different stages and say, you know what, I'm just going to do it because I know this is going to make this person happy. But when we stop allowing people to disrespect us and hurt us, whether it be physically or verbally, then we have full self-control of that. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Great point.
It's true. And I think, Nate, that was for you from the person that my cousin that said, nicely said, bro. He appreciated that statement. But here's the issue, y'all. Oh, goodness. We're definitely going to continue this conversation because I know we're looking at the clock. Here's the issue, though. I agree with you, Ashley, and it's the truth because we're in a different generation now. When it comes down to, now Ashley said something about acknowledging the people that are toxic and dealing with that. But unfortunately, we have our forefathers and our grandmothers and sometimes our mothers, grandparents and all that didn't know that or didn't see that. Because, and Ms. Marcia, you can help me pull this out. When you're coming from a generation of you better not ever question me. You better not ever come against anything I got to say. So you had, and I can only talk about what I've experienced even in ministry or even family, just some situations where you didn't question back, you didn't talk back, you didn't share how you felt. And some things that were done was toxic. It was like, yo, why would you say that? Why did you do that? Even in ministry, you didn't, the church mother says something and what she said was really wrong and hurtful and off the hook, but you best not say anything, and so now some of that teachings or that things was taught to generation.
Mhm.
Now I'm finally y'all just now getting to a place where I can respectfully respond and say, I don't agree with you, evangelist. I don't agree with you, preacher or elder. And even with certain levels of leadership, I'm going to respect the leadership when I know that they are just not talking about Bible. Not talking, I'm talking about just some stuff where you're just wrong on, like you're just completely wrong. And I'm like, I disagree. I disagree with you. And you can disagree respectfully. Because even back in the day, even saying you disagree was a pop in the face. You know what I'm saying? So that growing up was like you didn't say nothing. Because there's a lot of people that have been hurt within ministry, within church, and I know they call it church hurt, within the family of God, because we're talking about relationships, within family church relationships, because of things that were said and done from people that they looked up to. This wasn't always the pastor. I said it intentionally, people they looked up to, but never spoke up for themselves because it was highly discouraged for you to open up and share your feelings.
Right.
It was highly discouraged.
It was definitely viewed, Nathan, real quick. If it was an elder, to question or to correct was viewed as being disrespectful, just period, even if it was wrong, and they usually wouldn't acknowledge the wrong. But all this that we're saying and what Ashley said, we do teach people how to treat us by what we allow them to say and do to us in any relationship, relationship. And we teach sometimes parent child. If they say, well, I learned how to do that for you, a parent's response will be, I never told you that. You teach by example too. It's not always by what you instructed somebody to do, not what
Yeah.
you told them to do, what they saw you do. So,
Yeah.
and what you allow is what will continue. Here's the thing with relationships and teach me how to love you and where do I stand. We've learned that, I do have to teach somebody how to love me, tell them what I like, what I don't like. And that has its place. But I've learned to look at this perspective. I think when you're in any relationship development stage, you need to watch how somebody lives and how they love, and then you decide if you want to participate in that type of love.
I love
Yep.
it.
It's not always just,
So
I'm
true.
just going to tell them, like you're going to make a robot clone your thoughts and feelings and tell somebody, here's the manual for this. And it doesn't always work, because then when they don't meet your expectation, we're disappointed and hurt. And here comes the conflict. But I always say this now, watch people who are in relationship with other people. Watch how they love. Watch how
Yeah.
they are in the relationship. Then you decide if you want to be in relationship with them on
Wow.
any form, whether it's friendship. You don't have much of a choice with your family, because biologically you're going to be related how you are related. But relationship doesn't mean that you always have to have fellowship with them.
Yes.
And
That's
you cannot have the fellowship and not be mad. Y'all are calling it love them from a distance. You can just be resolved that this is where we are, and I'm okay with that. I'm not mad. Don't want them to be. But if they are, I'm not going to be, and I'm going on in peace. Because if you don't and try to keep forcing something to happen, you forfeit your peace when you're trying to force a relationship to be something that is not naturally.
Yes. That's the truth. That is the
It's
That's
truth.
also
I like it.
exhausting
that's
too.
so true.
It's
Wow.
exhausting when you
Doors of the
try to
church
get
are open.
somebody.
And for
Yeah.
children, even if they're adult children, remember this, because in the beginning, I heard a lot of examples of how parents respond to children. Even
Yes.
after they grow up, sometimes you're still responding to them like they're kids, little kids, they're not. But children, even adult children, remember your parents evolve too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
y'all
Yes.
can't
Yes.
always respond to us how you did when you were a child, because we've grown,
Right
we've
now.
changed, we've
Right.
evolved.
That is so true.
So
Absolutely.
true.
Oh my goodness. That is so
So
true.
true.
You know what cracks me up, y'all? It always happens like this when it's time to go.
No, because she hit it on the nose. It's so true. You got to watch
Yes.
how people
Yes.
treat
Sure.
other people. You know,
Yes.
like how a person interacts with their family. How they.
Yes.
I've
Mhm.
even heard how they interact with a waiter. How a person even treats a
Mhm.
waiter at a
Yes.
restaurant goes a
Yes.
long way about how that person is. And if you can't even treat your own family right, or even a stranger as a waiter, like I have to question you, because I'm very family oriented. Now I'm not saying everybody else has to be, but I'm big on family. And if I have to somewhat at least see that grounded in you, you know, that's just me, but I don't know. Wow, Miss Marcia.
I can say wow. That's all I can say, y'all. Listen, we're going to continue this conversation next week, and we're going to dive a little deeper next week about toxic relationships, because there's a need for this conversation. There's a need for you to know that there is hope. There is life on the other side. There's needs for you to understand that there's some things that you can have options. You can have different variations of choices. And I'm just going to just give you just a brief one that we're going to talk about next week. Outside of, family is not solely on blood.
Amen.
It's also the people who choose you, the people who you feel deeply connected to, the people who lovingly hold you accountable, the people who offer you a sense of safety, the people who consistently show up for you, the people who are willing to give you what you need, the people who who know you well and love you greatly. So we're going to talk about that next week, y'all. That was a great conversation today. Oh my goodness. Listen, y'all, take this, watch the replay, share it with somebody. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching today. We will be back next week, continuing the conversation about relationships. And so listen, stay tuned. We're here, Sound Gospel Radio, y'all. We're building hope. We're transforming lives 24/7. Sound Gospel Radio.
Building hope. Transforming lives. 24/7. Sound Gospel Radio.